Good evening, Christ Church. Welcome to this segment of What's Happening at Christ Church. I'm Pastor Galen. I'm glad you are with us. It delights me that you have tuned in tonight, and I hope that you will be enjoying this segment tonight. As we begin, I often offer some thoughts, and tonight I'm going to do something a little different. This is my article for the upcoming Net called Sharing the Journey. What a year this is for all of us, right? I mean, 2020 is one for the history books. No other year can compare with it. Well, in this time of talking with you, I simply want to share my journey a little more personally with you tonight. I'm not going to reflect theologically on a passage of scripture. I'm not going to write a mini sermon or preach it tonight. Just going to share with what's up with me. Christmas was exactly 6 months ago. And at Christmas time, I received some of your end of the year Christmas cards that share your journeys. So here's my middle of the year sharing the journey with you. Several of you have asked how I'm doing after my heart attack 6 months ago. Can you believe it? 6 months, almost to the day. Tomorrow it would be 6 months because it happened on the evening of Christmas Day. Well, I went to my heart doctor about a month ago, and my heart's ability to pump blood improved to levels almost where I was before the heart attack. I have just a little more to go, and certainly exercising sure does help, and good diet helps. And guess what? I returned to my college age weight as well. Blow me away. Then COVID-19 hit, making a whole new way. 2020 is one for the books, but that's a different story for another time. Life carries on. Friends, I'm looking forward to being a grandfather in July and again in October. That's amazing. Some of my high school classmates are great grandparents already, and I'm just now getting into the game. But Barb and I are really looking forward to it. Barb's over the moon about it, actually. 2 in 1 year. Wowee. Now, after Stephanie Dorsey's Ecclesiastical Council this coming Sunday, I'm taking a week off of vacation. When COVID-19 hit and things slowed down a lot, I started a woodworking project in my basement. It's a broom closet that I have high hopes will match our kitchen cabinets. Yeah, we'll see. This is the biggest woodworking project I have ever attempted. But no matter, I do find that working on it and working in my shop is restful to me. I see the results of my work immediately, and I like the challenge of solving problems and using my big boy power tools. Well, I'm halfway done with my project, and I have high hopes that over vacation, I will push near the finish line. The hardest pieces are coming, though, making the doors to match. No pressure. So that's a little update on the personal side of sharing the journey with you. I look forward to reading your Christmas cards in a half year's time. It remains to be seen how different Christmas might be in this really weird year. But regardless of what time of year it is, Christ is born in us and lives in us. And I love sharing my journey with you. I am the most fortunate of pastors. Peace. Well, that's what's happening with me. Let's hear about what's happening at Christ Church. Here is our consistory president, Steve Stoffer. Dun, 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 dun.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I want to keep my mask on just for a little bit as Galen and I just crossed over here. I'm going to start off with what's happening and then tell you what I'd like to talk about this evening. Faith Formation Online for Adults is on Zoom. It's available on Zoom on June 28th. This is the Contemporary Christian Conversation class at 9 o'clock. And the link to this Zoom class is on your church members and friends Facebook page. Faith Formation Online for Adults on Tuesday, June 30th at 7 o'clock. This is a really good class. I've been able to attend this. The Contemporary Christian Conversation class offers a second topic for discussion. Please join us. The link to Zoom is on your Christ Church members and friends Facebook page. The 678ers virtual pizza party is tomorrow night. And again, I think Galen is going to test that weight reduction opportunity he has. And the middle school youth group, the 678ers, are having that virtual pizza party. Bible and Brew, Monday, July 13th at 6:30 p.m. The Deck at Hennigan's is closed on Monday, July 13th. So once again, we'll be at the pavilion right out back here on the grounds of the church. Bob Sorensen will lead the devotional, and his title is The Decalogue. Sorry if I mispronounced that. That's right. Or How to Talk to Other Religious Groups Without Getting into a Fist Fight. This is a bring your own beer event. Bring your own beverages, bring your own sodas, bring your own whatever you want to do, and bring your own chair. As Galen mentioned, he will be on vacation following Sunday's worship events. Pastor Bill LaSalle will be our pastor on call. Please call the church office if you have a pastoral emergency. And if you need Bill after hours, you can reach him at home, 717-665-0649. Please keep in your prayers. Stephanie Dorsey is a member of our congregation and a recent graduate of Lancaster Theological Seminary. Will have her ecclesiastical council on Saturday, June 28th via Zoom. If approved, Stephanie will be ready for ordination into Christian ministry pending a call to a setting of ministry. Laurel Batten upon the death of her last remaining sister, Lorraine Glidden. Family and friends of Martha Farver Apgar upon Martha's death. Jamie Lieber, who is now on hospice care at home. Please keep both Jamie and Kay in your prayers. Susan Van Sciver reports that she feels all our prayers and loves. She continues to do as well as can be expected. Side effects of chemo are getting a little easier. Next month, Sue starts radiation, and we wish her the best. Debbie Yawn's family upon the death of Sean Kohler. That completes the announcements, everybody. And what I would like to do is tell you what I want to talk about here tonight. I'd like to talk a little bit about the regathering and also looking ahead. I'd like to talk a little bit about some thoughts and memories and some people. And the last thing I would like to do is talk to you about race a little bit this evening. So let's jump into regathering. As a church, as leadership, and as our staff, we are really, really confident and excited to provide very meaningful worship and to be able to do it safely. This is an option for you to worship collectively if you are healthy and when you desire. We will continue to live stream. That stays available. So nothing changes there. All that we're doing is providing you with an option when you desire, and of course, being healthy. A bunch of steps here. Please RSVP the church if you're attending this week, both 8:30 and 10:30, either one of those. And we want to continue the RSVPing. We call it soft RSVPing, but whenever you choose to come back for that Sunday, please call the church office and let us know. This RSVPing isn't for just this week. It will probably continue the whole way through July. We do want you to wear your face mask and cover your nose and your mouth, and especially when you're speaking. Bring your own sanitizer. We're going to ask everybody to sanitize their hands on the way in and the way out of the sanctuary. Avoid hugging and handshaking, please. No hugging parties. I've begged Kevin Jacoby and Galen to not do that. South parking lot, and my wife too. South parking lot door and the portico doors are the doors that we plan to have open. The other doors will be locked shut. The reason for that is we don't want to have people bumping into each other and having a lot of congestion in any one area. There will be an usher to greet you at either one of those two doors and an usher to seat you wedding style at one of those two doors. So again, the south parking lot door and the portico door will be the two that are open. We will be spreading you out in the sanctuary at about 8-foot social distancing. Once you're sat, please try to stay seated. And also after the 8:30 service ends, if you don't linger, that would be helpful because we need to clean the sanctuary in between the two services. Also, just for your knowledge, we will be writing down your names for contact tracing. And again, all these steps we think we will be running through July. Looking forward, Pennsylvania and Lancaster County, for the most part, continues to do real well. I think most of you know that. The numbers the last couple of days are a little bit iffier. But overall, Pennsylvania and Lancaster County are doing well. Our hope is that obviously the trend continues, and if that were to happen, we can eventually and carefully remove and relax some precautions and adaptations. If the trend reverses, you should know, if the trend reverses the wrong direction, we will take additional precautions and adaptations. What we are going to do is stay safe. The group of 5 of us, that would be Chris Dinsmore, Pastor Galen, Tom Downing, Ginny Bishop, and myself, we continue to monitor the current facts and trends. And also, you should know, and I think we've tried to communicate this in writing, that group of 5 is empowered by consistory to make necessary and timely decisions and adaptations immediately and when we think is necessary. Again, our goal is to keep everybody safe. My personal feeling is that churches, congregations, society is going to need to stay flexible for at least a few months. We need to stay flexible, smart, and safe, and still enjoy and have as much fun as possible, and that is available. If you have questions, I think you could type them into Galen.
Or to you right on the screen.
Or to me right on the screen here, and I'll try to pay attention to that. I'm not as technology savvy as Galen is. I'd like to start into a new topic here, and just some thoughts that I have and a few memories and a story for you. During this pandemic, many of us have been able to adapt and find some enjoyment and a lot of fun. My heart, however, goes out to those of you fighting significant illnesses. I'm sorry, I really don't know what it's like to experience that during this pandemic. I can only imagine, but I don't know. But my heart is with you. And you should know that Galen and the church staff and I are available to be of any help that we can be. I do want to speak to Martha's passing. When I was a pup, so many leaders of this church guided this congregation through various crises. I often think of Jerry Highlander, the mayor, Bob Brain, Earl and Eleanor Loki, and all of their direction, encouragement, and leadership through so many decades that I was a part of here. I think of them often, and I think of those people particularly this year and all of their strengths and wisdom. There's more people who I enjoyed and I respected listening to. John Book comes to mind, Ken Reichert comes to mind, and Martha. Martha had a continued pedal to the metal on objectivity. She often used the word reasonable. I can think of objectivity and being reasonable so often when I've talked to Martha, just in conversation, in a discussion, a problem solving, all the time. Martha stuck to the facts, and she applied facts to simple common sense and sound judgment. I'll miss her a lot. I do want to share a story. I'll do my best with my memory. I've asked a couple people to see if I have the facts close to right, but I'm going to do my best. Our church, about 24 years ago, if I have this right, had an intergenerational weekend at Hartman Center. There were 50 people plus at that weekend, Friday night to Sunday. My specific memory of that weekend was a Saturday dinner. We were all in the dining hall having dinner, and it was, as usual, a great dinner at Hartman Center. After the dinner, there was a Vesper service in the dining hall, and after the Vesper service, there was some type of a craft events at a whole bunch of different tables. We all moved to different tables doing crafts. Following that was time for fun and games, not fun, games and fun too, games and activities. to put it in perspective, people had a lot of energy at that moment. We'd been sitting, and they were ready to rumble. Somebody, and I don't know who, had the brainy idea of a Nerf gun battle using marshmallows. And I'm not making this up. There was a full-fledged battle in the Hartman Center dining room. I think every single person from our group that was there was in. And I'm not, no lie. There were marshmallows everywhere. Everybody all in. I looked up at one point, it was just white above me. The big ones too. Stan Nair, I looked off the side, Stan Nair's attacking us, running alongside a whole bunch of tables and chairs that were stacked. Pat Harzer was launching them, and yes to Martha. She was in also. I couldn't believe it. It was funny. We were sweated. It went on, I don't know, at least 15, 20 minutes, maybe, I don't know, at least that, I think. I remember on the way back to the cabin, Jan and I were walking with our littles at the time, and I remember Jan's face just cracking up, talking about Pat and Martha just pelting people with marshmallows. She goes, of all people, Jan was losing it, and Martha was giggling the whole time. From little kids to seniors. And it was an awesome moments at Hartman Center, and Martha was right in the middle of it. So that's just a fun story for a lot of people. And I wanted to share that with you in memory of Martha. I would like to now change subject and talk about racial injustice and inequality. Before I begin, I want to say that my thoughts that I'm going to talk about in the next 5 to 8 or 9 minutes, I think, are mine personally. I'm a member of the church, and that's what I'm talking about. In no way are my comments, I guess, directly reflective to the church, and I want to clarify that before I begin. My thinking through what is happening right now, but not right now, from years past and since I've been a little boy. But to think that there is not inequality and that there is not racial injustice is not sensical. It makes no sense to even say that. I think for someone, I think for you or anybody to say that there's not inequality and not injustice happening right now is ignorant. I'm talking about not just policing, and this is not about just the justice system, which is on TV right now. Of course, those are huge components of the inequality and the injustice, in my opinion. But it's also an education system. I would challenge you to walk through the hallways of McCaskey or Harrisburg or even Lebanon and see what technology is available, see what's on the walls, see what the lockers look like, and then go walk through Township or Warwick or Elizabethtown and tell me there's not a difference. It's also the difference between walking into a Turkey Hill at 2 a.m. And I do know what it's like to be walking into Turkey Hill as a white person at 2 a.m. in the morning and a minority with the hood up and M&M popping out on the car. There is a world of difference between the way you're looked at. It's about people that have worked for me, walking to work and being stopped by police cars and asked where they're walking to. What time do you start? What's your manager's name? I've had it with Mexican people, Black people, and Asian people. It makes me mad. This is not about pancake syrup. It's not about the Indian on the Land O'Lakes butter. This is also about grocery stores not being available in a Black community. We saw that when we were in Atlantic City. We saw that in Florida, that grocery stores, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables just aren't available. Gas stations, hardware stores. We needed paint on mission trips and have to drive a half an hour to get something to help people in that community. Restaurants. I've worked in restaurants. I've sat around tables where we build. It's a fact that that stuff's not in Black communities, and it changes the way people live if you have to drive a half an hour and rely on public transit to get to where you need. What's happening now is a term called necessary outrage. And honestly, personally, I'm not surprised that there's this much rage and anger. I'm almost surprised it hasn't surfaced before. I'd like to share one personal story, and I've got a couple better than this. But I have a family member that I think probably it's been over a decade ago. He calls me on an afternoon. I remember it was a Friday afternoon. I can remember this very clearly. And it's, Uncle Steve, I've been pulled over. And I ran a yellow light. I swear it wasn't red. And I've got a bunch of cop cars here and they want to search my car. And my response was, tell them to wait till I'm there. And that's how we left it. I was 15 minutes away. And I can tell you where it was. It's the bottom of Chickies Rock on this side, right at the red light going through there. It was in the winter. I had on a suit and a nice coat and a nice car. And I go zipping as fast as I can. I get there. I park. I get out of that car, walk across the street like I own the street. You should have seen 3 cop cars. I think there were at least 6 policemen. Jumped away from my nephew's car and him as quickly as they could. And all of a sudden, everything just turned where, hey, they were just as nice as they could be, and attributed it all to a misunderstanding. What they wanted to do was search his car. There was no need to do that. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but it took me getting there to stop whatever was happening. I couldn't understand later why my nephew was angry at me, but it had everything to do with white privilege, that he was in a mess for 45 minutes until the white person showed up and solved the problem. And I think that leaves a mark in people. It instills rage. Systems that keep injustice and inequality and power in place, it's not right. And I like to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But I want to deviate just a little bit and talk about what I call microaggressions. These are little things that happen. And I know I sometimes think maybe I shouldn't be talking about this on 7:30 live, but maybe I should, because I think it's important to put this stuff out there, and it matters. It matters to people. But I want to give you just a few, and I kind of hope it does make you feel uncomfortable. When we say something along the lines of "you're a credit to your race," that comment is said more than you think to not just Black people, but other people as well, but certainly the Black population. A second one is, you don't sound Black. To be able to articulate so well and to have a comment made like that, it's deplorable to say that about a whole Black population. A third one is a person of color being mistaken for a service worker or a janitor. I have heard this from so many different people, that they may be a patient in a hospital, they may be a parent walking into a school and seeing the Black person behind the desk and thinking that's the secretary and not the principal. I can't even begin, I guess I can't understand how bad that is. A comment of, may I touch your hair? I have another one. I brought in the latest Clipper magazines. I think I counted 98 white people in the ads, 2 black and 2 Asian people, and most of those people were service workers. What does that say? What are we putting out into our community? The phrase that white privilege doesn't exist, it's almost laughable to a minority. The last one I have is this comment of all lives matter when someone says Black Lives Matter. Of course, all lives matter. But when people say that, what they're missing, of course their lives matter. All of our lives matter. But what they're missing is to Black people, their lives don't matter as much. And there's a huge distinction there. And I think sometimes when we all put our foot in our mouth in one way or another, and I'm as guilty as anyone, I'm not implying that any one of these makes anybody a racist, but maybe tinted would be a word I would use. And I wanted to share those because maybe at times I may have done that, made a comment like that, but you got to think how that's perceived. I want to go into my last piece of inequality and justice, in my opinion, again, speaking for myself. I personally think it's so important for people to speak out, not just now, but all the time, and to do much more than work the margins. People in power, people who can, in my opinion, generally don't want a lot of change. It's easier to stay the course. And I often hear from people in power or people who can do things that choose not to, I'll get phrases like, well, did you think about this? Did you think about doing it that way? Almost talking us down. I think sometimes people in power want to hold on to their power. That's often the most important characteristic of somebody in power. And if you pull back and think about people you really, really, really admire, it's often someone who is a leader who does take measured risks, I guess. I'll put measured in there. I was going to say just risks, but takes a chance, puts themselves out there. I think that change happens when those that are not marginalized join the group needing support and necessary change. I think change happens when people in power choose change. We need the protesting. We also need people who can make a difference to get out of their comfort zones. We need people to look at where they work, how they live, and ask themselves and others truly tough questions. I'll give you some good news and some good examples. I think of a congregation that voted 91% to be open and affirming. That is clearly people who thought beyond their own sex preferences, their own identity. 91% of the congregation did that. I also think of a Black Lives Matter protest that was 60% white. That's huge. When people care about other people, change happens. Think of yourself when you receive support from an unexpected source, from somebody unlike you, or looked different from you, or came from a different direction. When they supported something with you, think of how that felt. What did that mean to you? My personal opinion is our country has work to do, lots of work, heavy lifting to do. Not the easy stuff laying around, but it's time to move the bigger piles. It's past time. Please take a stand and don't be complacent. This half hour, I hope I gave you information to regather and as our church looks forward. I hope I made you smile and thought about marshmallows flying in the air. And I also hope I touched a nerve in you for justice. And that's all I have. I wish you the best. See you when you can come to church. And my love to all. Good night. And then I hit end stream. Is that right, Gil?
Yes, and then okay.
Thank you, buddy. Make sure it would end.